5th Annual Great Philadelphia to Atlantic City Road Race, coordinated by Jim Latt's JL Running Resources, with your host, Alan Wenzel.
Speaking now with Jim Latz, the sponsor of the Great Philadelphia to Atlantic City race. Jim, how many people are going to be here today?
It looks like about 42.
Do you see a chance for maybe a really quick time today?
I think so. We got 3 or 4 excellent, 4 or 5, I guess, excellent runners, and I think the finish is going to be, in spite of being 62 miles, I think when it gets down to the wire, I think 3 or 4 of them are going to be within yards of each other.
Scott Greenberg demonstrating his skills. He won't be running the Philadelphia to Atlantic City race. He'll be skateboarding the full 62 miles.
It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good people in this.
That's good. Does that $500 first prize mean anything to you?
Not to me. Only if I drive. There's only 3 or 4 people that are looking at that money. The rest of us are just out to have fun. The scenery and the socializing, have a couple beers when we get there, lie some more when we get down there.
It's a fun race. It's a one of a kind. It's like London's, the London to Brighton. This is the Philly to Atlantic City run.
Were you in this last year?
No, 3 years ago. Or the first year they had it, I did it.
What do you think about today? The weather is good for this kind of thing?
I think it's great. I prefer it colder, so I think it's excellent.
You're expecting a good run?
I hope so. Depends what this wind's going to do.
What's the furthest distance you've run?
I've gone 40 miles before.
Do you think that there's going to be a tremendous amount of difference with that extra 22 miles?
Yeah, I think the last 22 miles is going to be all guts.
With all of the runners having crossed the bridge and made it into New Jersey, the leader of the pack was 30-year-old Charles Trayer, who had jumped out front early and remained there. Were still relatively close to one another as they plowed through suburban South Jersey in the early part of the race. However, by the end of the race, over 6 hours would separate the first and last finishers. Windy November morning had been ideal conditions for some of the runners, but for others, and especially our camera crew, it was a frigid experience. Finally, by mid-morning, the sun had started to generate some real warmth for the benefit of all.
Getting better all the time.
The first runner to cross the halfway point, 31 miles into the race, was Charles Trayer.
Feeling all right?
Oh, still hanging in.
We're just past the halfway point in Hamilton. It's 10 minutes in front of 10 o'clock now, and Charles Trayer is still the leader, as he has been from the very beginning.
The pack of runners had begun to spread out now. Following Charles Trayer's considerable lead was 37-year-old Bill Lauder. .32-year-old Nick Manzini was close behind in third place. The runners had already run well over a marathon, yet they were only halfway through the race.
We're talking with Walt Pearson now. Walt, we're at the halfway point, and how are you feeling?
So far, so good.
Now, you've done a lot of running, right? You've been in marathons, and have you been in other ultra marathons like this?
First one.
How do you feel about your time so far and just the day in general?
Pleased with the day. It's couldn't have been better. A little tailwind and temperature ideal, sunny, and my time. I'm pleased with it. I don't have any real goals, so it looks good.
Surviving is the goal, right?
Surviving, yeah.
And legs are holding out all right?
Yeah, so far. Can't say they're not tired, but keep going.
Well, good luck to you, Walt. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Before this day had ended, the finishers will have run the equivalent of almost 2.5 marathons, 62 miles through the midsection of southern New Jersey.
Good. Trying to hold back.
Oh, yeah?
I want to try to run the last 10 real hard.
Great.
Nearing the two-thirds point in the race, Charles Trayer maintained his lead. However, the gap between him and second place Bill Lauder had been steadily narrowing since the halfway point. And Bill Lauder showed no signs of slowing or weakening. Still in third place, but now considerably further back, was Atlantic City native Nick Manzini. As the leaders reached the marshlands outside of Atlantic City, Bill Lauder had narrowed Trayer's lead to just a matter of yards and was steadily gaining. With just 10 miles to the finish line, Charles Trayer fell prey to hamstring problems. Seizing this opportunity, Yardley, Pennsylvania's Bill Lauder jumped into the lead, becoming the first person to hold that position other than Trayer since the beginning of the race over 6 hours ago.
We'll return to the 5th annual Great Philadelphia to Atlantic City Road Race in just a moment.
Bill Plowder's lead would prove to be short-lived, as Charles Trayer overcame his physical pain with the help and encouragement of his support crew to regain the lead with less than 10 miles to go. Upon entering into the casino city, Charles Trayer had gained a lead, making him the certain winner of the 5th annual Great Philadelphia to Atlantic City Road Race. The Reading, Pennsylvania native had averaged 6-minute and 49-second miles for over 7 hours. As he ran past the curious onlookers on the boardwalk, this moment was all his.
Charlie Trayer, you're the winner of this thing. You cut off a half an hour from last year's race. You finished it in about 7 hours. Now, how do you feel?
Well, it's first time experience doing this kind of distance. I've been doing well in the 50 Ks and 36 milers over the last 3 years, and this is kind of a spur of the thing. Like, I decided about 4 weeks ago just to come out and try it out. I went out fast and just, held a steady pace as best as I could. At about 45 miles, I started having hamstrings started to really start cramping up on me. And at one point, I guess about 10 or 12 miles to go, I got a really bad knot, and luckily my handler was there with me, and he could rub it out so that I could keep going. And then once I got going again, I really loosened up, and I was able to pick the pace back up and catch up to Bill Louder and bring it back in.
Well, what was going through your mind when Bill passed you there? That was about 10 miles out.
At that point, I was having serious thoughts of ending it because my hamstrings were really hurting. But like I say, my crew just kept pushing me and saying, hey, you can't go, you come this far, we've worked this hard, you can't just give up just because he passed you. And so like I just started going again, and all of a sudden I just sort of got a second or third or whatever wind you want to call it, and I was able to pick it up, and once I started going I felt good again. And I knew I could see Bill right there, and he wasn't moving that fast, so I just started closing and closing and closing, and then he stopped and took some liquids, and when he stopped I just, boom, that was it. That gave me the strength to come back. I've had a good fall, and now I'm ready for a little bit of a break, maybe 2 or 3 weeks of easy running, then we'll see. I want to get ready for Boston Marathon in the spring.
Great.
So,
great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Congratulations. Yeah. Thank you. You had the lead for a little bit there. What's going through your mind then when he passed you again the second time?
Well, I had to take my hat off to him. He picked it up, and I felt I really didn't falter. I I kept hanging in there, but he was very tough over the last 12. I think he had cramps about 50, and that's when I caught him. And I guess he worked him out.
Bill Lauder averaged just 3 seconds per mile slower than Trayer, finishing less than 3 minutes behind the winner.
Neal Wygant, who is our third place finisher, and Neal, you were starting in the latter part of the race anyway. You were 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, could you recap what happened there?
Well, I had a little stomach trouble the first 30 miles, and I couldn't get going, but right around 33, I started feeling good and had a good patch. And I think I was in 6th most of the way, in the 30s and 40s, and then around 50, I might have moved into 5th. And then I know I caught Dan Brannon with about 5 to go, and then I caught Ray Kowalowitz just about half a mile before the boardwalk. So then I moved into 3rd finally. But so Ray should be next. He's not far behind me.
So how do you feel now at this point? I mean, considering you just ran 60 miles.
I feel pretty good right now. If I hadn't had a rough time the first few miles, I had a lot of stomach trouble. I might have done a little better, but no excuses. You know, you have to come through on the day of the race.
Out of the 42 starting the race, 31 would finish. Their time spanning Trayer's 7 hours to the last finisher's time of 13 hours. Still, just finishing is a feat that could be attained by only a dedicated few.
Ray Kowalowitz, who came in 4th this year. Ray, you won this thing last year. Yeah. Now, you're only about 20 minutes slower than last year's pace. Can you attribute this to anything?
Too much racing.
How do you feel, really, as far as the race went for you and the day?
You know, I ran it the best of my ability. Like I said, I've done a lot of running recently and a little tired. And just worked hard, you know, the whole way through, worked consistently. I wasn't really in any shape to go out and race some of the people. And it's another race, you know, it's another event. Do another one 3 weeks later, you know, you just keep banging them out.
Dan Brannon, who came in 5th place, is with us now, relaxing after the run. How do you feel about the run today? How are you feeling personally?
Oh, I feel good. I got a personal best for the distance. And I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to run faster, and I wanted to be able to challenge both Bill Lauder and Ray Kowalowitz. I fell a minute shy of Kowalowitz, but Lauder obviously proved that he was far better shape. I feel good about the finish, too. I just held off Doug Hagee. I turned around with a couple miles to go, and I saw him right on my back, and I just jumped up in the air and sprinted the last mile.
That's great.
So I feel good about that.
Doug Hagee, who came on pretty strong in the finish. Doug, we were talking to you earlier, if you recall.
Yeah.
Your plan seemed to work. You came on pretty strong the last 10 miles.
I wanted to do. Yeah, I wanted to bring it on in strong and see if I can get 1 or 2 guys, and it worked out pretty nice. I feel real good. No problems at all.
Nick Manzini, the number 7 finisher. Nick, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling, it hurts so good, I'll tell you that. I'm feeling great now. The last 5 miles I had trouble, I started cramping. And I stopped quite a few times, lost a lot of time. But
well, now the last half of the race, or not half necessarily, last 20 miles, you were in 3rd place for quite a while. Now this is what was slowing you down?
The cramping, yeah. I drank a lot of fluids, but it just didn't seem to help. Later in the race, I started leaning forward to try to get rid of the cramps, and just want to go away, and that hurt me.
Yeah. Well, I see you got a lot of supporters here anyway.
I'll tell you, I couldn't have done it without them. I had quite a few handlers, and they helped all the way, I'll tell you.
Okay, that's great to hear. Congratulations,
Nick. Thank you very much.
As dusk approached, the runners continued to cross the finish line.
Marcy Schwamm, the only woman in the race, and also the winner. Now, you beat last year's winner by over an hour. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, hour and some odd, I guess.
Now, how do you feel at the end of this race? In good shape? Do you feel
Good shape. I just have a stomach ache, and that seemed to be my problem the whole way through. Just plagued by a stomach today.
Did that slow you down then during the race?
It slowed me down. The cold, I think, slowed me down too. Once we turned into that headwind.
As races go, do you think that this was a well laid out one, an interesting one to run, or?
Wait, I like this actually. It's sort of a challenge because it's a free for all. It's you and the cars, and you just you start and you make your way here.
Yeah, I got you.
Jim Latz, who is sponsor of the Philadelphia to Atlantic City race, as well as owner of the Knife and Fork Inn here in Atlantic City. Jim, you just finished it. Anything to say?
Not too much. I'm a little breathless, but it was really a great race, and I understand the fellows that won took the record down by, I think 20 minutes, or 25 minutes. And likewise, I think I'm 30 minutes under my last year time. So next year, as I get older, I guess I'll have to knock another 30 minutes off this when I celebrate my 65th birthday.
What are your plans for immediately following?
We're all going down to my house, and everybody's going to celebrate whatever they achieved today.
Any plans for next year?
Yeah, I think it should be bigger and better. We had a lot of great runners out here today. Not enough, though. We want to have more people out here. I think we're going to create amongst a lot of people. I actually saw a lot of people out here walking today because we inspired them to walk and do a little exercise because we ran this distance. And that's what it's all about. Get out there and move.
This has been the 5th annual Great Philadelphia to Atlantic City Road Race, coordinated by JL Running Resources and produced by Camtel Video.